Good afternoon, everyone. It is 1:35, so I'm going to go ahead and get started. Thank you for joining me this afternoon as we talk about our Transported Meals HACCP plan. Before we get started, I realized I forgot to do this on the webinar yesterday, but I wanted to briefly introduce myself for those of you who I have not met or emailed or talked to over the phone. My name is Katrina Perry. I am the Professional Development Consultant here for the NCDPI Office of School Nutrition. My subject matter area is food safety and HACCP, which is why I'm doing this webinar for you today. And I do have a background of working in food safety education, more on the consumer side, but I did work in that role previously for about 6.5 years. So that is where my background in food safety came from. And I'm also excited to share with you today a little bit more detail and hopefully clarification about our Transported Meals HACCP plan. So again, as I said, today we're going to review the Transported Meals HACCP plan template, which is designed for schools that receive meals from a permitted food establishment, which can either be a school kitchen, a restaurant, or a caterer. Our goal is to focus on the key areas of the HACCP plan template and how to use each section. If you attended yesterday's webinar on the commercial plan, you're going to notice some similar information to what was presented yesterday, but we will also highlight important areas and differences of the Transported Meals plan. Before we continue, I want to let you know that I will be using the words transported, catered, and vended somewhat interchangeably, but essentially I'm referring to operations where meals are prepared by one entity and delivered for service at a school food authority location. How many of you feel like this every time you pull out your HACCP notebook? Well, today we're going to try and take the sizzle out of the hassle book so you can be cool, calm, and collected when using your HACCP book. Let's start by going back to the very beginning. Why do schools have a HACCP book in the first place? First, the USDA requires that all school food authorities participating in the National School Lunch Program or the School Breakfast Program have a food safety program for each of its food preparation and service facilities. The food safety program must be based on Hazard Analysis Critical Control Point, or HACCP, principles and comply with guidance issued by the USDA. And secondly, but most importantly, food safety is one of our top 3 priority areas. The safety of those we serve is critical, and we take it very seriously. Although food safety is not technically a PS1 or PS2 violation when it comes to an administrative review, our state will take action if there are severe food safety violations. The requirement to develop a food safety plan was included in the USDA 2004 Child Nutrition Reauthorization Act and has been implemented since 2006. The North Carolina Department of Public Instruction, Office of School Nutrition, and NC State University have developed templates for schools to use to customize and use at individual feeding sites. The North Carolina HACCP plan templates, as we call them, meet the 2017 FDA Food Code, which has been adopted in North Carolina. The HACCP plan templates are reviewed and updated annually as needed to comply with the Food Code and best practice updates. Revisions are generally highlighted for easy reference. There are 2 different sets of state regulations for food establishments that provide the basis for our HACCP plan templates. While these don't directly apply to school food authorities who receive transported or catered meals, it's helpful to understand where many of our food safety regulations come from and what the food safety requirements are for those who prepare the food that you receive. The first set of regulations comes from our state general statutes. Among other things, these rules impact how inspection points and grades are assessed for permitted food establishments and also provides requirements for the person in charge. The first link you see on the screen will take you to these rules. The second link is to the North Carolina Food Code. North Carolina has adopted and is currently operating under the 2017 FDA Food Code, although there is a more recent version that has been issued by the FDA. The North Carolina Food Code guides the do's and don'ts for foods offered for sale in North Carolina. This is the document on which the food establishment permitting and inspection grades are based. A note about the FDA Food Code. The purpose of the Food Code is to safeguard public health and provide safe food to consumers. The FDA develops a model food code, which we just call the Food Code, and issues updates to it about every 4 years. States can choose to adopt the model food code from FDA, or they can develop their own food safety rules as long as they are consistent with national food regulatory policy. So what is HACCP? HACCP stands for Hazard and Analysis Critical Control Point and is a systematic approach used to create a food safety program that is designed to analyze and control foodborne hazards by focusing on each step of the food preparation process from receiving all the way to service. The HACCP plan is designed to prevent foodborne illness rather than to react to an outbreak. When properly implemented, a HACCP-based food safety program will ensure the safety of school meals served to children across North Carolina. You may have heard the term person in charge, or PIC, when talking about food safety and HACCP. This can be found in the Food Code and other food safety regulations. The Food Code defines a person in charge as the individual present at a food establishment who is responsible for the operation at the time of inspection. Depending on the operation providing your meals, the person who serves as the PIC of the school kitchen or food establishment is typically a school nutrition manager of a school kitchen, or the manager of that food establishment. If you receive catered meals from a restaurant, the food establishment should have their own person in charge. The Food Code also requires the person serving as the PIC to have a Certified Food Protection Manager certification, which we will talk about more in detail later. More than one person in a food establishment may have this certification, such as for a school that is self-operational, a manager and an assistant manager, although there's typically only one person in charge at any given time during operations. NCDPI has 4 HACCP plan templates available for school food authorities to use. The first one is the commercial kitchen template, which we discussed yesterday, and that is widely used for sites that are preparing and serving meals in a commercial type kitchen. The transported or catered meals template, which we're talking about today, is used for sites that receive meals that are transported from another kitchen. The home-style kitchen template is used by some residential child care institutions, or RCCIs, with domestic-style kitchens that are feeding students in a group home setting. The central warehouse template is used by school food authorities with a central warehouse to store purchased and USDA foods for distributions to each school site. Even though a warehouse site does not prepare foods, food safety is very important during the storage and transport process and is subject to a HACCP plan and monitoring. We are reviewing the transported meals plan in this webinar, but depending on your operation, you may need more than one plan. For example, some districts that operate a central warehouse for storing school nutrition food and beverage items would need both a commercial kitchen plan for their self-prep school sites, as well as a central warehouse plan for their central warehouse. This slide shows where the HACCP plan templates are located on our website. As we said earlier, these templates are updated annually. Every year, each school food authority must download the templates and complete the information to make the plan specific to their facility or schools. You can visit the website shown here or scan the QR code with your phone or mobile device to get to this page. Feel free to download the parts of the template now and follow along with me as we go through each of them. Now let's take a closer look at each part. I'm going to pause briefly for any questions. I'll also stop between each part for questions and at the end as well, but feel free to raise your hand or type a question in the chat if you have one. Okay, I'm going to continue onward. Before we dive into the transported meal HACCP plan sections or parts, it's important to note the difference between a school that conducts food preparation, which we call self-prep, and one that only receives food for service. It can be confusing where the line is drawn between preparation activities and service-only activities where no preparation occurs. This distinction can also vary based on your local health department's interpretation of food safety regulations. Any school that is conducting food preparation when providing meals is considered a food establishment that is subject to the North Carolina Food Code and state statute food safety regulations. It is required to have a food establishment permit. Some examples that are typically considered to be food preparation include cutting produce, putting ingredients together to make a meal item, cooking raw food ingredients such as proteins, vegetables, or grains that are not pre-cooked or commercially processed for heat and serve only, and serving food that is not prepackaged and pre-portioned per person, such as serving from bulk food pans or containers. If you are receiving bulk food in pans or containers that must be plated and served to students at your school location at meal service, that would be a situation requiring those serving to have a food establishment permit. In other words, the caterer who should have this permit could serve the meals. If you want your staff to be able to serve and plate meals from bulk food containers, or doing anything considered to be food preparation as part of the meal service, then your school kitchen or serving area would need to have a food establishment permit. Local health departments issue these permits, and the school must first submit an application and go through the plan review process with their local health department. It can take months to years to receive a permit, depending on the operation and the capacity of the local health department. If you are currently receiving transported or catered meals and are looking to start preparing your own meals on site, make sure to reach out to your local health department now to find out more about their requirements and the process for receiving a food establishment permit. If you are receiving individually packaged or plated meals that only need to be served to a student with no additional preparation activities involved, then you do not need a food establishment permit for your staff to serve these meals. Examples here are unitized clamshell containers with the entree and sides, along with a carton of milk or juice and any other commercially or caterer packaged sides, such as a fruit cup, bagged baby carrots, single serving packaged crackers or baked goods, or other similar items. Many health departments will also issue a limited permit that allows for certain kinds of low risk food preparation, but you will want to reach out to your local health department to learn more about this option. This can include situations where food is received in commercially packaged individual units that only need to be heated before being served to students. Again, we strongly encourage you to talk with your local health department if you are serving or intend to serve meals in this manner. Please also include your school nutrition consultant in any conversations so they are aware of your service operations and plans. Food establishments will receive regular inspections called food establishment inspections or health inspections or environmental health inspections, as we call them sometimes. And these are received from their local health department. If you are not receiving these inspections that are specific to the kitchen or food preparation area of your school, then you likely do not have a food establishment permit. If you are receiving catered or vended meals, you should maintain current copies of the caterer or vendor's food establishment inspection reports and scores. Food establishment inspections will include a copy of the report, which should look like the version shown here. As part of the inspection, the food establishment should also receive a score, which will appear in the top right corner of the report. This score should also be written on a score sheet that will be provided by the local health inspector and must be posted in a publicly visible location. Please note that the food establishment inspection is not the same thing as a building inspection. A building inspection, such as what is conducted when a school is built or renovated, includes any kitchen or food preparation areas if present, but it also includes other areas of the facility. Likewise, a permit to operate the building is not the same as a food establishment permit, which is specific to providing food. I will also clarify that a food establishment and food establishment permit are specific to food that is for sale to consumers. And although there may be no direct money exchange or payment depending on your school food authority's student eligibilities, Meals and snacks served to students on USDA child nutrition programs are still considered to be food for sale from a food safety standpoint. There is additional guidance in Part 1 of the HACCP plan template in the position statement section about food establishment permits. Now let's move on to more of Part 1.